I find it difficult to feel a sense of peace in my life sometimes. Sometimes I feel as if I should get away. From what, I hear you ask? Well, everything. Every day is a hamster wheel of work, home, clean, cook, sleep, then get up and do it all over again the next day. Broken up by a doctor appointment here or yet another migraine there. I have friends, but I often feel like a ghost in their lives. So often at the end of the week, I find myself tired and can't get up the energy to send a text, let alone call or see somebody in person. I sometimes even convince myself that they wouldn't want to see me anyway, busy with their own lives as they are. When I get like this, I find myself dwelling on what it even means to get away from it all. What would I even be running away from when the darkness of my own thoughts would just follow me to whatever distraction I found? I don't want to run away into the woods in real life, so instead I'll do it in the game. I first played Firewatch last year. That was originally supposed to say this year, but life happened for a few months, rest in peace my computer, and here we are in month 3 of 2024. I always knew I would write something about Firewatch, but the question of what I would write, though, haunted me. I've started and stopped the script a dozen times, written and then deleted at least 7,000 or so words, just sitting here at my computer desk, surrounded by my piles of mail and listening to my cat scream for food. I had something to say, but I couldn't ever verbalize what. Finally, I just grabbed a notebook, a pen, and sat quietly away from my home office to put down my thoughts a little at a time, and here they are. I don't think that there's anything wrong with having this desire to leave your cares and responsibilities behind, at least for a while. To me, acknowledging the overwhelming pressures of existence is a necessity to function day to day. Firewatch put me in the shoes of someone who, like many others before and after, felt the same. Eventually, I gave in to the call and helped him flee from his own life for a few months when it became too much for him to bear. He treks through miles of forest over the course of a couple days and finally reaches his destination, the Two Forks Firewatch Observation Tower. The game's intro provides a look into Henry, our protagonist's, inner life. He is living through a catastrophic development in his marriage. His wife Julia had to be institutionalized after developing an early onset case of dementia, and it left her a danger to herself and a stranger to her husband. Sometimes when he can bring himself to visit her, she won't even recognize him. He begins to tell himself how much everyone around him actually think of him as a failure. The other couples in his and Julia's friend group must all be talking about what a terrible husband he is for not being the one caring for her, how terrible it is for him to have abandoned his wife in an institution. Julia's family aren't particularly close with Henry. According to him, they think that Julia could have done better. Except for her sister, who gives Henry the typewriter that he uses to journal through these long days alone in the woods. Julia herself must even be disappointed in her husband in her own way. She recognizes him less and less. Henry attributes this to his own failure to go see her more often. In this intense feeling of personal failure, I see a reflection of my own thoughts flowing around my mind every day. They don't like me. They're mad at me. They probably wouldn't want to see me anyway. I've disappointed everyone. Henry is carrying a lot of blame for what happened in his marriage, the unfulfilled dreams that now can never be achieved. He's so wrapped up in his believed failure that he hasn't stopped to acknowledge his own grief, his own loss, the loss of the person that he loved and their shared life. He never acknowledges the pain of watching her deteriorate and then feeling guilty for how bad he feels, knowing how much worse it is for her. Their life together wasn't perfect, and yeah, no matter your choices in the beginning, Henry has been selfish at times. He's a bit of a hot mess express when we meet him, and that's okay, that's fine. We've all been one of those at some point to greater and lesser degrees. I haven't stopped a significant other from taking a job that she really wanted because I didn't want to move, but I've definitely done other selfish things in relationships. Anybody who claims otherwise isn't being true to you or themselves. Life is about acknowledging your mistakes and trying to grow from them, after all. Henry's boss, Delilah, drunkenly greets him over their radios the night he first arrives at his tower. She sits up there in her own tower, just at the edge of Henry's view from his, and she watches you over the long summer days with her telescope. She brazenly demands to know what is wrong with Henry that he took this job way out here. We're all running from something. She's been running from her own mistakes for about a decade now. What is he running away from? We get to see what this isolation out there alone does to a person, not just from the perspective of Henry, but the two characters we hear but never see, Delilah and Ned Goodwin, Henry's boss and the previous occupant of his watchtower, respectively. Delilah and Henry grow close over their months together. I say together, but really they never meet face to face. Their relationship begins and ends over the handheld radios they use for work communication, and Delilah's kind of intrusive, voyeuristic watching through her telescope. Depending on how you play it, Henry may even reciprocate Delilah's growing feelings for him over the course of the summer. I didn't. Reciprocate, I mean. I wanted my Henry to be truly focusing on himself, still loving his wife and just too scared to face her with this ravenous guilt eating away at him. He's got the presence of mind to realize that encouraging Delilah won't actually fix how he's feeling about his wife, just give him another thing to feel guilty over. Delilah is the first person to address how traumatic all of this was for him, the first person to see his pain and acknowledge it without judgment. Henry found the thing he most needed out here, somebody to be compassionate for him and let him know it was okay to be compassionate to himself instead of punishing. She also offers a different perspective for Henry to bounce his ideas off of when he starts to get paranoid. We seek patterns in the world around us, a simple cause and effect to hold on to. When bad things happen to us, there is this impulse to figure out why. Why me? What did I do to deserve this? I must have done something to create all of this hurt. Acknowledging that there's nothing better or smarter we could have done means acknowledging that we're not as in control of our lives as we believe. This can lead us to a lot of things we may not normally do or think, like believing that there's some sinister plot going on where you personally are a target of a secret government project out in the middle of nowhere. Weird and kinda bad things are happening, and there has to be a reason. If you can just figure it out, find some answers, then everything will make sense. No existential crisis necessary. Even away from his life, Henry can't escape his anxiety, this sense of doom and fear of what may be happening. Before anything weird is even going on, he panics when seeing another person out in the woods near his tower, in a national park where people, go to do outdoorsy stuff. Then, when weird things do start happening, it's much easier for him to fall into this conspiratorial thinking and paranoia. He's primed to think about all these terrible things happening in his life, so what's one more? One that would at least explain the overwhelming sense of doom that he feels, no matter how unbelievable. There is a mystery here. It just has nothing to do with Henry, and it is tragically mundane. The previous lookout, Ned Goodwin, had his teenage son Brian living with him in the tower. The boy died in what appears to be a climbing accident, and overwhelmed by grief and his own inability to face the world without his kid in it, and every legal and social implication that has, he just never leaves the woods. He stays there, content in blanketing himself with his grief to make it through the long days and nights. It's easier this way. No funeral planning, no judgmental people thinking it was his fault, just a nosy new lookout who might accidentally stumble upon him one day. According to Delilah, a lot of people become fire lookouts to run away from something, and Ned did just that. He was a war veteran and dealt with PTSD. A quiet summer in the woods with his son must have looked a lot like a vacation to somebody that troubled. Ned was running away. Delilah is running, and Henry is running. Delilah ran straight into her own tower and stayed there, drinking away her summer days. Ned never stops running. He just goes away even further into the forest. Henry has a choice at the end of everything. Keep running into the woods beyond the wildfire burning up the area around his tower, or stop, turn around, and run straight back home to his broken life to try and pick up the pieces. I chose to return home. My Henry's arc complete in a nice, narratively satisfying way. To be with his wife even if she can't see who he is anymore. To face his life now with the knowledge that when he had a chance to run away and disappear, presumed dead in a raging wildfire, he didn't. Real life rarely has a narratively satisfying ending. Depending on who you ask, Firewatch doesn't either. At the time it came out, there were a lot of people who were disappointed that the game didn't give you a grand mystery to solve. That it reminds you, even when you do everything right and solve all the mysteries, the answer is just that there wasn't actually anything weird going on. Just a horrible accident. In the present, the only ones who dedicate this much time to talking about the game tend to be the ones who feel the way I do about it. We grasp for an easy way to describe what it means, what it's about, you know? What it means to us, or how it affected us. I think what I've been able to put down here describes how I feel, even if I don't have some big conclusion, some final word that will stick with you and be the thing that you, dear watcher, will remember after this video ends. But that's like Firewatch itself in a way. I remember the vibe at the end, but this is how many words it's taken me to describe how it felt to experience. I'm happy without a succinct conclusion. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you could leave a like. If you haven't seen my Night in the Woods video series or my video about queer experiences in rural areas, I'm told the people who are excited for this video also really enjoyed those, and maybe you would too. I also have a Patreon. It's at patreon.com/writingwomen, and you can support for just $2 a month. I post videos early and also updates on the state of the channel and information or text of my other writing projects. I'd also like to get enough people to start getting good polls of what people would like me to look at next. Thank you to all of my current patrons whose names should be on screen right now. Thank you to Kathy for the closing music and my partner for listening to me talk about this thing for months and is doing everything possible to help me with my PC recovery. I know I've been gone a while, but sometimes life just happens and you have to hold on for the ride. This time it was the tragic death of my PC and the loss of pretty much everything I had on it, including all of my music and files that I keep for editing videos on this channel. At least temporarily, I don't have access to them. We're trying to recover some of it from the hard drive, but for many reasons, it is proving very difficult. I've got a ramshackle recording setup now, so I was finally able to capture game footage since I lost my previous recordings. And then I was able to record the audio and edit everything, and I'm pretty excited to finally be able to put out a product at the end of all of this. Thank you again for watching. I really appreciate it if you made it this far, and I will see you next time.